You know what Sony had? The Holy Trinity. Leo, Brad, and Margot. Who do you have?
This week, you're getting 3 films for the price of 1 as Shane and I discuss Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in Richard Linklater's classic Before trilogy. This is Boy Party. I guess when you're young, you just believe there'll be many people with whom you'll podcast with. Later in life, you realize it only happens a few times. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Boy Party, the podcast about movies, trilogies, in fact, where 2 major actors share the screen and battle it out for first billing. The most dialogue and the most whimsical, philosophical musings. This week, I am joined, as always, by the man I would be most likely to wander around Vienna, Paris, or Greece, chatting nonsense with for several hours. It's Shane Kelly.
Good afternoon.
And we're delighted to be here to discuss one of the most elite, high-level, beloved things we've ever talked about on this podcast. Films that most people listening have probably got a special relationship with. 5-star reviews, left, right, and center. We're talking about 3 films today: Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight. I think it makes sense for us to do these all as one episode. I don't think anybody wants to listen to 3 separate episodes. I don't think it fits the format of the podcast at all for us to cover these movies separately.
No, and cover their careers 3 times.
Yeah, it makes no sense. We're coming off our previous podcasts, Adam and Ben, where we did a couple of episodes like this. We started off fucking up by doing the first Madagascar on its own.
Do we do like Madagascar 2 on its own?
Yes, and then Madagascar 3 on its own. So we fucked up. We did the Madagascars as 3 separate episodes.
Yeah.
But we did the Nights at the Museum as one episode. And we did the Dirty Fockers trilogy as 1 episode. We did the Grown Ups movies as 1 episode.
Yeah.
And the Two-Lander movies as 1 episode.
Yeah.
So the only thing we fucked up with was setting a precedent that Madagascar had to all be done separately.
Well, they are the most individual. They're entitled to their own episode.
Yeah, I mean, the second and third Madagascars are quite distinct in that the second one's good, and the third one is Circus Europe stuff.
Yeah,
first one is kind of the most generic of the 3. Sure. Anyway, but Before Sunrise, Sunset, and Midnight are quite light on narrative and flashy filmmaking. They're very dialogue, character-driven films that are all very short.
Yeah.
They're all very lean narratively, and I would say that it makes perfect sense to discuss them all in 1 episode. And I don't think this episode is even necessarily going to be a particularly long episode. By our standards, I think that these movies are quite quick and efficient to discuss.
Yeah, and whatever is kind of good about
one of them applies to all of them.
All of them, yeah.
It is, however, a fun opportunity for us to finally dig into the career of Ethan Hawke, and to a lesser extent, Julie Delpy, who is probably someone I have less to say about, but is great. She kind of exists and operates mostly in the French film industry, which is less of a subject of expertise for the 2 of us. But there's moments here and there where I am quite familiar with her work, so we're going to talk about them both in a little while. But these movies are Richard Linklater, one of his 2 kind of, what's the plural of opus? Opie? Opie? Plural of opus. He's a filmmaker I really like. Opuses. There you go. Mr. Holland's opuses.
Is it not by definition? Does that not mean 1?
Yeah, I agree that there has to be an opus is a singular by definition, maybe.
Lord knows.
But Richard Linklater is a filmmaker I really love. I think that his 2 masterworks, I think many people would agree, are this and Boyhood. Now, I'm a bigger Boyhood fan than most people. I think that film's reputation has gone down in the public consciousness since it kind of like ran the table on Oscar nominations in 2014. Like at the time, it seemed like a real consensus. Like, wow, what an achievement. What a great film. Great performances. Arquette wins Best Supporting Actress. Hawke gets nominated. Like every year since Boyhood came out, almost like we are in the plot of the film Boyhood itself. 11 years now since that film came out. So we're almost hitting the same number of years since Boyhood as Boyhood took to make.
What was it, 13?
12, yeah. 12. They could have raised another Mason in that time.
Boyhood 2 could be coming out.
Boyhood 2 could be coming out, yeah. But like, I think every year since Boyhood came out, people have started to be like, what a gimmick. That film's all style over substance. Oh yeah, they made the film over 12 years, but what's that film really about? And I I fucking detest that opinion.
It's about time passing.
I know. I know you don't like that film as much as
but
I do.
I don't like it for the reasons.
You have a visceral, personal response to it that you didn't like.
Yeah, and I also watched it about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It needs a rewatch. I hadn't seen the Before trilogy before.
Yeah,
I think
you
I
might
had
connect with it better now.
I think I had a similar reaction to like the first 30 minutes of Before Sunrise.
Yes.
That I did to the entirety of Boyhood, where
Yes.
I'm just like,
Yeah. It's prodding things in your life that you don't want to be touched maybe by a film.
maybe.
I don't know.
There's something that makes me recoil in
Yes.
just like, in a way that like I should have done that, but I also can't do that, and like, why would I ever do that?
Yeah. Right. So it's depicting an alternate life that you could slot yourself into, which maybe makes you think in an existential way that you're uncomfortable with, I guess.
Maybe, but seeing it from a third perspective is kind of...
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I just disliked it.
Yeah. No, I think that film is one of the best films ever made. Like, I fucking would watch that film every day of my life. I think it is amazing on any level, but for me it feels like a very specific depiction of growing up in the 2000s in a way that no other film has ever really been able to capture. And it's not just because of the 12-year production, it's just the fact that the boy, the L.R. Coltrane character, is roughly the same age as me. He's about 3 years older than me, I'd say. And like there's stuff in that movie where he's like going to a Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows midnight release party at Barnes and Noble. That's a thing I did. Like there's just and not, you know, oh, the movie's good because it reminds me of things I did in real life is not an intelligent take. But there is an extent to which, and I don't come from a divorced home, and there's a lot of stuff in that movie that doesn't reflect my childhood at all, and he has a sister and I'm an only child. But there is a certain degree of like, this film gets what childhood in this era was, and the various types of having to evolve with the technology of the time and the culture of the time in a way that other films in other eras have done for other generations of kids that I really connect with, where I'm like, I don't expect someone 10 years older than me to get Boyhood and to feel as moved by it as I am, but I really, really adore it.
Those kind of events are pretty consequential to do when you're a child, and then kind of seeing them redepicted on screen, kind of almost in a very...
Makes you feel like they matter.
But not in a way that it's a dramatized memory of it, in a very kind of literal, oh, this is just what it was, and you're kind of seeing it.
Yeah, and I think Boyhood makes small, insignificant moments of memory in childhood seem like they're worth putting in a film, which makes me feel like my childhood was interesting in a way that I find very
somebody else has
life-affirming.
identified these moments
as worthy of depicting. Yeah, exactly. But that's my favorite Linklater film. Then quickly followed by these three movies, Before trilogy. And then out of his rest of his filmography, there's a lot of hits and misses. You know, I think there's undeniable stuff in there like School of Rock, which everybody likes. Dazed and Confused and Everybody Wants Some, I'm not as hot on as everybody else, but they are a lot of fun. Then there's stuff like Slacker and Waking Life and Fast Food Nation, which are very distracted films. I mean, Slacker is really fun and unique, and then he kind of pulls the same thing again with Waking Life with animation. And Waking Life, I watched the other day, actually features a Jesse and Celine section where an animated version of these two characters voiced by Hawke and Delpy show up and talk about dreams for 10 minutes. That film is just constantly, every 10 minutes it's a new set of characters and a new conversation. It's like watching 20 Before Sunsets back to back, and it's a little bit overwhelming. Then you've got his kind of generic comedies like Bad News Bears. Fast Food Nation I watched the other day. Ethan Hawke is in that, like for a little bit. That's like a Greg Kinnear, McDonald's PR guy satire at that point in the mid-2000s where Hollywood was completely obsessed with
Super Size Me
and fast food. It's really weird how many films like that come out around that time. Thank You for Smoking is another similar one. And then he's got this other thing he does, which is his like old Hollywood movies. So he made Me and Orson Welles with Zac Efron, which is not good. Bernie with Jack Black, Shirley MacLaine.
Is Zac Efron playing Orson Welles?
No. Orson Welles is played by Christian McKay. Bernie, people love Bernie. I didn't love it when it came out. I do need to revisit it. It's like Jack Black is a cheeky butler, and Shirley MacLaine's in it. Very old-fashioned movie.
Sure.
Last Flag Flying is a sequel to Robert Altman's movie with Jack Nicholson, the name of which is The Last Station or something like that. It's terrible. It's Steve Carell, Bryan Cranston, Lawrence Fishburne. It's a boy party. It's about three boys traveling cross country to bury Steve Carell's son who has been killed in military action. It is a weird,
I did not realize that was
sad
a film.
sack. It's it's probably Steve Carell's worst performance.
Yeah.
He is playing this like miserable, grieving guy who's just like the worst Steve Carell turning the ham up bullshit. And it's real like the fathers of military sons. And it's weird. It's like a Clint Eastwood movie directed by Richard Linklater. I really don't like it. Where'd You Go, Bernadette with Cate Blanchett and Billy Crudup is a complete dud. Just doesn't capture the spirit of that book well at all. Hitman is his most recent film to be released, which I did not like as much as everybody else. I'm not a Glenn Powell fan. I think that's the issue. If you slotted someone else into that role, I might enjoy that film a lot more. I think there's a lot of fun sequences in it in terms of him like wearing crazy costumes and stuff, but I just don't think Glenn Powell is a good leading man. And then he's got 2 movies coming out in the next 6 months. One of those is Blue Moon, which is a Ethan Hawke vehicle about the life of Lorenz Hart from Rodgers and Hart, which was the precursor to Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I have friends and colleagues who were extras in this movie. The whole thing was shot in Ireland. Cinematography, as always with Linklater's recent films, done by Shane Kelly. Not of this parish, but Instagram mutual of mine. And this movie has an amazing cast: Ethan Hawke, Andrew Scott, Margaret Qualley, Bobby Cannavale, Simon Delaney, and a very talented young actor called Cillian Sullivan, who just stars in an Irish film called Spilt Milk, who is playing young Stephen Sondheim in it. And my colleague from work, John, appears in that film. He hopes, we haven't seen it yet, but he's got a line in it where he goes, "Dick, you coming?" And shuts the door behind him. So we're really excited to see that. Ethan Hawke is playing a man who was, I think, 5'1" in that film. So there's one still released where Margaret Qualley is just towering over Ethan Hawke, who is bald, has teeth missing, and is 5'1". And I am so excited to see this film. It's getting released in September by Sony Classics in the US.
I guess what a lot of my dreams are like.
About Margaret Qualley towering over you while you're bald and have no teeth.
And I have no teeth.
Yeah. And then he had a new film premiere at Cannes, which is coming out in a few weeks. In a few months as well, which is Nouvelle Vague, which is about the making of Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, starring Zoe Deutsch as Jean Seberg and Guillaume Marbeck as Godard. It sounds absolutely dreadful. I've seen the trailer for it. It feels like a movie that was specifically made to make my dad angry. It is a Hollywood bastardization of the French New Wave filmmaking by an American Texan stoner guy who thinks he gets it, which is a dismissive thing to say about Richard Linklater, but he is not the person to be making a film about classic French cinema, in my opinion. Although he has, of course, worked with one of Godard's collaborators, Julie Delpy, which we'll get to. Of those 2 films, far higher hopes for Blue Moon. Although Nouvelle Vague is the one that made it to Cannes, but they're both, I think, going to come and go and probably not be remembered very fondly. But Netflix acquired Nouvelle Vague, which means they're going to mount an Oscar campaign, and you may very well see Nouvelle Vague getting a random Best Picture nomination 6 months from now, just because of Netflix campaign, Richard Linklater, and it's about the making of the movies,
Has he had any Oscar success aside of Boyhood?
So Boyhood is his biggest Oscar success. Best Picture, Best Director nominations. Doesn't win anything other than the Arquette. These before movies, the second and third ones, are both screenplay nominated. For him and Delpy and Hawke. Otherwise, no, I don't think he's had a whole lot of Oscar success. But anyway, that's his career. He is a
bit all over the place.
He's a director. Oh, he's got a great variety of stuff.
Yeah.
He's definitely a director who I would call one of my guys, because he's got 3 or 4 or 5 5-star films. Every second film he brings out is crap. Yeah. And I think that is really a virtue of him just working constantly. There's about 1 movie a year, and a lot of them don't work. He has now fallen into a bit of a trend of selling his films to Netflix, which he himself does not seem to be thrilled about, but Netflix just keep snapping them up at festivals, and he can't really do anything about it. I think he's just happy to be working. He's very relaxed, chill, colloquial guy. He's from Texas. He doesn't have Hollywood brain.
Yeah.
He speaks in a very normal, everyday manner.
He's not the John Voight bring Hollywood to Texas.
God, no. He's well, maybe a little bit, but he's a really nice, laid back guy. Yeah. And I think that counts for a lot. Actors love working with him. He works with the same people over and over again. He obviously has good relationships with people like Ethan Hawke, but also with Jack Black. And I think that there's probably 3 more great films coming down the line. I mean, he's only in his early 60s. I think there's good stuff probably in his back pocket that he'll launch in the next couple of decades that we won't see coming. one of the things he has on the go is he's doing another Boyhood. He is currently in production on a version of Merrily We Roll Along that he is shooting across 20 years with Paul Mescal, Beanie Feldstein, and Ben Platt. Paul Mescal was called in last minute to replace that fucking twerp who Melissa Benoist was married to, who was an abusive husband. I can't remember his name, the guy from Glee. I'm glad I don't remember his name because he's a fucking asshole. Anyway,
interesting investment in Paul Mescal there.
Yes, so Paul Mescal, no matter how much his career tanks,
he will be in a Richard Linklater
film in 17 years or whatever. So that's interesting. Produced by Jason Blum. We'll see that film in 2042 probably.
Oh, Jesus
Christ. Crazy shit. I can't imagine that people won't die in that time. Someone's going to be dead. Whether it's
one of us could be dead.
One of us could be dead. Someone involved in the production is going to be dead. Fingers crossed they don't. But like, anyway,
if you're still here in 2042 watching this Merrily We Roll Along, give comment on our Instagram.
Comment on our thing. We might get the notification. So that's the Linklater oeuvre. I don't know how many more of his films we're ever going to discuss in this podcast because I think Last Flag Flying is too shit to talk about.
Sure.
But anyway, I am a big fan, and I think the before movies are a great summation of what is great about him. So Shane had seen Sunset.
I did a Madagascar on it.
You did a Madagascar on it. I did an even worse thing with this. I watched Midnight first.
Okay.
In 2013 when it was released, because my dad was like, "Oh, Before Midnight just popped up on the Pirate Bay. let's throw that on." And I was like, I don't know anything about these movies. My parents did have the first two on DVD though, so I was like, these are like films of quality. And I knew who Ethan Hawke was, and I was like, sure, let's watch this. And I thought it was really good. I didn't get the context of the sequel, prequelness of it, but I was like, well, these are really engaging performers. The script is great. The conversations they're having about relationships, family, raising children, the marriage being tested by all of that are really engaging. Even if I haven't seen any of this develop, I thought it was pretty good. Wouldn't have been like, oh my god, this is amazing, 5 stars like I am now, but I was like, this is pretty good. And then a couple of years later, when I was like really revisiting Boyhood before I went to college, and was like, Boyhood's so fucking great. This is a perfect movie for me when I'm about to go to college. I should watch Before Sunrise. We have it on DVD. We have no internet in our house because we just moved to the countryside. I'm going to watch these movies. And I watched all 3 of them in the space of 24 hours and had an otherworldly experience. Brought you to see Before Sunset in the Lighthouse about 3 years ago. They showed it around Valentine's Day, and I was like, this is the best one. You'll survive without seeing the first one.
I think all of these actually probably function
on their own.
I
would almost say the one that doesn't function on its own is probably the first one, because it's just a little bit flimsy if you're not watching the other 2 immediately after. I think the first one doesn't really stay with you unless you're jumping straight into the sequels.
And also, like, the ending of the first one kind of maybe doesn't hit as much if you don't know that another one's coming 9 years later.
Yes.
Like, if you think, oh, that's that done, nice wrap up, sure.
Yeah.
You're kind of left to it a bit yourself.
You'd leave the cinema being like, God, yeah, interesting decision there that the lovers departed at the end of the film. But you wouldn't be scratching and itching like, oh God, I need to see them together again. Whereas if you know there's a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point it was announced that they were making a sequel. I'll try and figure that out. I mean, obviously, the Waking Life animated sequence actually comes 3 years before Sunset.
Okay, weird.
So people were getting their weird fix of the couple Celine before they got that.
Like you can probably watch the 3 of these in reverse order and like still get a similar experience.
Yes, it's interesting. It says a lot about...
They do give plenty of like kind of hints and referrals back to the previous ones, but in a way that it just sets up the current conversation.
Yes.
And they're not essential because you kind of relearn the characters every time you watch one of these.
So we were comparing... Firstly, Before Sunset begins with him doing a talk about his book.
Yeah.
Where he is literally giving you a recap of the first movie.
Because that's what his book is about.
Then Celine shows up and we get very Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning style flashes of shots from the first movie.
Yeah.
While the 2 of them are looking at each other across the bookshop, it cuts to shots of them 9 years earlier on the train.
Do the flashbacks stop when he sees her for real? I think they do.
Oh, maybe they do.
I think they're cutting back to flashbacks
while he's talking,
and then just suddenly it cuts to her standing watching him.
Yes.
And it fucking sucks the air out of you.
Yeah.
It's insane stuff. It was crazy.
Because she looks quite different. he's someone where, like, because he's more famous and he works more in America, I feel like the audience kind of knows what Ethan Hawke looks like.
Yeah.
In 2004, you're like, yeah, like Ethan Hawke is in like 100 movies between 1995 and 2004. I'm familiar with how he has aged.
Yeah.
And then you see her and you're like, oh my god, I haven't seen her in years. This is crazy. It's like seeing an old friend.
It is.
So Before Sunrise was inspired by a real interaction Richard Linklater had with a woman he met in a toy shop in Philadelphia in 1989, and he walked around talking to her all night.
Yeah.
And then she died just before the film came out.
Oh fuck.
She never got to see it. I think he did like stay in touch with her. That's so sad. He wanted to work on it with a female co-writer because he said that there was going to be such an important element of male and female back and forth. Absolutely. So he got Kim Krazan, who had worked with him on Slacker and Days and Confused, and said her mind is a constant stream of confident and intelligent ideas. He wished to explore the relationships of life and discover two people of complete anonymity and try and find out who they really were. I mean, it's an interesting idea that I'm going to throw out, that like when you meet these two people in the first film, they could be lying about everything they say.
Absolutely.
There is such a nice, refreshing opportunity to lie when you meet a new person and there is no one else around to rat on you.
Not in the slightest.
So like you meet someone in a foreign country on your own, they can't stalk you on social media like they could now. They can't look you up on LinkedIn to check, validate what you're telling about yourself. You just be like, oh yes, I am Bono's son.
Yeah. You're reading that book I also read, therefore you are similar enough to me that I trust you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do they meet over a book?
They do.
Commonality?
Sorry, there's a couple arguing.
It's just like how my parents met.
And Julie Delpy has to move seat.
Yes.
And then she sits across from Ethan Hawke.
And he's like, what were they arguing about? I don't speak French, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, bullshit. They're German, right?
Okay.
Something like that.
And then they're reading
This
books.
episode has a real risk of me doing offensive French accents.
Only you. There's no risk of me doing it.
When did I do the French accent recently? Actually, I did my Jean-Luc Godard when he was talking about... who is Jean-Luc Godard talking about? Clint Eastwood. Was it?
I don't know.
Somebody. What did we do the week before? John Wayne. It was about how John Wayne's racist, but I love him anyway. Yeah. So, I like the idea that like nothing they say could be true. But then by the time you get to the third movie, you're like, well, now his ex-wife is involved. So I think
there's witnesses.
There are witnesses now. This couple has now interacted with each other's extended families and whatever.
Also, the fact that he wrote a book about this specific interaction kind of reaffirms that it was a real.
Yes, I think so.
It was real.
Yeah. Casting for the film took 9 months. Originally, he was against casting Ethan Hawke. He thought he was too young for the part. He hired him after seeing him in a play. He hired Julie Delpy, asked them to read together in Austin, decided they were right for the roles. Delpy told an interviewer that they performed uncredited rewrites, saying that the original screenplay lacked romance. It was a lot of talking, and Richard hired us to bring the romance to the film. Delpy and Hawke subsequently received writing credits for the sequels, which they got Oscar nominations for. Linklater wanted a larger budget sequel to be filmed in 4 locations, but his proposal did not secure funding, so he scaled back the concept of film, with Delpy, Linklater, and Hawke working independently on their own screenplays over the years, and they adapted elements of these earlier scripts to Before Sunrise for the sequel. I mean, that's great that he was denied funding for 4 locations, because this film turned out to be a perfect movie. So I think it would be awful if this film was them getting on a boat, interrailing, I guess, going to 4 different places? Like, no. The magic of Before Sunset, which is far and away the best of these 3, I think, is that it is basically set in real time to the second. Yeah. There is no skipping forward through the day like there is in the first movie. You are literally just following the two of them almost as if it was in one single take from the bookshop to her apartment.
For 70 minutes.
For 75 minutes maybe before credits.
Yeah.
And there is the shortcut cheats of the boat and the car.
Yeah.
But they get from point A to point B to point C, and then he misses his flight, basically, we assume. Because the ticking clock of the flight coming up in 2 hours is an incredible way to put pressure on them to reconnect and figure out what the next step is for this connection in that period of time, with the added twist that she is going out with a war photographer and he has a wife who he's miserable and he has a child and all this. The first movie, there's no rush. It's like, yes, he has to get a train the next day, or she does, or whoever.
But you have to be able to kind of... you're not racing against anything because there's nothing has been created yet.
No, yeah.
So you have to take your time to build.
Yeah, they're
up to a
assuming
point
in the
where
first
there's something
movie
gonna
that
be missed.
the first movie they spend the whole thing assuming that this is just a funny once-off thing.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh yeah, we're gonna leave tomorrow regardless. Will we have sex? Maybe, but we're not gonna exchange phone numbers. And then in the final 5 minutes, they're like, oh, maybe we should make a plan. We'll see each other in 6 months on this platform, which ultimately doesn't happen because her grandmother dies. Keep hearing about her bloody grandmother. But the first movie to me, and I know there are people listening who probably think the first movie is the best one and really love it and probably have a special connection to it. It isn't that for me. I find the first one to be pretty generic as romance movies go. I think it's really good. I think the two actors are great, and I think the other movies wouldn't work without it. But it is not like this amazing, perfect object that the other two are. I think that it is lacking in urgency, as we've said, but also the stuff they talk about just isn't as interesting.
But I think I think looking back on that now, that is a symptom of just them being, I think they're like 24 or 25 in that.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is, you kind of,
they haven't thought about as many big ideas, probably.
yeah, and you develop ideas by meeting people as you grow
but
older.
that's all well and good, and it might be true to life, but it doesn't make for as engaging of a film. I mean, I find the first one has stretches that are quite dull. I think when they're...
Oh, sure. I think it really kicks into gear in the last half hour.
when they're sitting in the cafe or like the indoor restaurant or whatever, or when they're chatting to the... Like, I like when they meet the poet or whatever, but then there's other bits where they're just chatting to people. And there aren't as many standout bits of dialogue. There aren't as many standout moments. A lot of the interactions they have with random people they're running into aren't that amazing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but like I feel like a lot of the good dialogue from the second and third one come from a point of conflict where like there's no conflict in the first one because there's nothing at stake.
There isn't. Yeah, it's too
maybe people
laid
relate
back
to the first one the most because it's the most likely situation they've been in out of the three of them.
Yes, maybe the other two require time, and you know, I've always said, is it premature that in my early 20s, I'm already finding the second movie to be the one that I relate to the most?
No, because I think we're getting to the point now where we are 9 years removed from certain interactions we've had.
But I felt that way for 9 years. I'm saying.
Well,
I guess in 2017, I was already feeling like I was in the second movie more than I was in the first movie.
You were missing your fourth class teacher, like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like I skipped to the second movie in terms of how I see interactions and relationships, which is probably an unhealthy symptom of my personality, that I put this kind of things are always too good to be true filter over everything in my life. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that could be it. It's just a bit of more cynicism.
Yeah, the first movie is for lovers and dreamers who surrender themselves to living in the moment. The second movie is for cynics
I've been
like
thinking
me.
about this for 9 years. This is how I'm going to be calculated.
Cynics like me who are overthinking
every
everything. And then the third movie is for people who have given up and are just like just love the argument. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So that that's the marriage story of this
progression,
trilogy. Yeah. Like, and I did say in my Letterboxd review the other day that Before Midnight is one of the great arguing movies, up there with Marriage Story. And I would absolutely say there's a lot of similarities there in terms of the types of arguments they have in that film are fantastic. They're so specific and great. So anything else interesting about the production here? Second movie was filmed entirely on location. So sorry, first film's in Vienna. You were just in Vienna.
I was in Vienna about a week before I watched the sunrise. Vienna, nice city.
Yeah. Not as
Was
nice
there
as Paris.
Was there on my own.
Yeah.
Which makes a difference, I think, when you're traveling to these places. Did not meet a nice French woman on a train.
No.
One thing I really like about the Before Sunrise is that it is very clearly like set on a Tuesday.
You think it's set on a Tuesday? Interesting.
No, I think we identified this in that.
You're right. It's not a weekend.
It's not a weekend because the city is weirdly kind of quiet, and like the kind of people they meet around the town are the people who are always on the street regardless of the day. Like the boys running their play. The poet, they're always there.
You're right,
None of the bars are very full.
There's no weekend buzz around the place.
There's no weekend buzz.
It does kind of capture what happens when you go on a Ryanair weekend away.
Yeah.
And you're there on a Monday or Tuesday and you're like
I think everyone in the background is going about either like, okay, finish work.
Their daily routine, yeah.
Yeah, and anyone that's kind of not is either just kind of a free spirited, like no structure to the life, and they're just kind of bouncing around as well.
That's interesting.
I got a real like this is very distinctly a midweek evening.
Okay, well, what do you think about the second and third movie? Do you think they have specific day of the week? I think the second movie could be set in a Saturday.
I think book readings.
Book reading in the morning is a Saturday thing.
Sure,
that's a Saturday, and then they're walking around Saturday afternoon. The parks are very busy. The gardens are busy.
The parks are always busy.
Cafe is like Saturday at 11 a.m., 12 p.m. type busyness.
Oh no, it's later in the afternoon. It's
and then they're on the boat. I think that second movie has Saturday vibes.
Yeah,
maybe Sunday. Yeah, no, that's
it's just busier in the background. Like, you can put that down to the city.
And the third movie, Greece doesn't really have days of the week.
No, and they're on holiday.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. That could be any day, yeah. No. It's probably a Friday. Someone's booked 2 nights in the hotel, so it's probably a Friday, Saturday thing.
His son is flying out. Does that give any indication?
No. Because I think days pass between the sun flying out and Anyway, second movie was made on a budget of about $2 million. So it's shot in Paris.
Sorry, the third one is all set in one day as well.
Is it?
Because remember, the son calls from Heathrow Airport while they're at the hotel.
Sure, he does.
So it does take place.
Fair enough. I've been to the cafe from the second movie. It looks nothing like inside. Looks nothing like it does in the film. But the outside's really nice. I'd recommend going.
I stood at the Albertina Gallery where they stand in the first one, right beside the Vienna Opera
the
House.
longest single tracking shot in the second movie. Do you know how long it is? Because I didn't really pay attention to where the cuts were.
13 minutes.
11 minutes. There's an 11-minute shot in that film. That's weird. I wouldn't have thought that now. I would have thought there were sneaky cuts every 2 minutes. Because what it does is the camera's in front of them when they're walking, but then it'll just cut to a side angle of them turning a corner, and then it'll cut back.
Yeah.
And it feels like I am not a long take wanker.
No, I don't think that's any
perfectly
sign of,
acceptable not to do that.
100%.
Boyhood has a couple of really nice long takes. You know the scene in Boyhood where he's talking to the girl and she's on her bike and he's walking. And they're talking about, he's like, I think Twilight's lame. That's a great scene.
I'd imagine it is just one of the straight line walks.
Yeah, it was 38 degrees Celsius when they were filming Before Sunset. Ooh, fuck that. Film is notable for essentially taking place in real time. Cinematographer Lee Daniel had to match the color intensity of the sky, even though there was a fast changing Paris climate. The film was released 9 years after Before Sunrise. The film was released in the wake of Hawke's divorce from Uma Thurman. Some commentators drew parallels between Hawke's personal life and the character of Jesse in the film. Additional comment has noted that both Hawke and Delpy incorporated elements of their own life in the screenplay. She wrote 2 songs and she performs the waltz at the end, and then they listen to the Nina Simone song. It's so good. And then they filmed Before Midnight in Greece in Messenia, in the southwestern part of Greece in 2012. It's released in 2013, and they made it for 15 days for less than $3 million. Incredible. These films are so cheap and so short.
No, they say
quick.
that, but like there are probably months and months and months of like writing involved.
Oh, for sure,
and
doing improvisational stuff. And, rehearsing.
Like you don't start from scratch.
No, I'd say they do a lot of rehearsal of the dialogue stuff.
100%.
So yeah, the second film ends with this amazing ending where they're in her apartment and he's like, I'm gonna go get my plane, I'm gonna go get my flight, and she puts on this Nina Simone song and starts dancing around, and he's basically like,
she says, "Oh, you're gonna miss your flight,"
and then it just fucking, and he just laughs. It's very similar to it's a bit of like a Tom Cruise like, don't make me laugh. Like, and then it just fades out. Directed by Richard Linklater. Incredible ending.
This scene is the source of inspiration for my most successful TikTok ever.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Where my TikTok is the driver sitting in the car waiting for Ethan Hawke to come down. And it's just me sitting in my car. Like, where the fuck is this guy?
All right, very good. I don't remember this. That's funny.
Got like 26 likes.
We'll put that up on our Instagram.
Cool, yeah.
And then the third movie is basically them with twin sons who are like really insignificant. The kids. See, I didn't even know.
No.
The daughters do fucking nothing in this movie. They're so insignificant. Whatever, it's fine. And then the basically Jesse and Celine get a hotel stay, so they like leave the kids with some friends.
Yeah, they're on a vacation basically to this rich author's house in the south of Greece, themselves and a couple of other couples. So they're staying probably in a big villa or whatever. And then, but obviously the kids are with them, so they don't get any privacy.
Third one starts with a lot of Jesse talking about his shitty book ideas. He's like, I'm going to write a book that takes place over the course of a pop song. And you're like, I don't know, maybe there's something there.
Is that not from Before Sunset?
No, that's in the third one.
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe he says it in both. No, he definitely says it in the third one.
Okay, what's his? I can't remember his shitty book idea in the second one.
It's similar. I don't know. He seems like a bad writer. Like, I don't want to read his books.
That's why it's funny.
It is funny. But anyway,
it's a funny gag.
They wander off to this. Basically, it takes them ages to walk to the hotel. They get to the hotel, and then there's like, I don't know, 35 minutes of them arguing in the hotel room.
This is like entirely an argument movie.
Yes, they're like, they get to a point where they're about to have sex, and it's clearly a rarity because they're always with the kids, and then they start arguing about whether they have to move to America.
No, it's because the son rings to let them know he's gone to Heathrow.
Yes.
And Julie Delpy says, "Okay, good luck with your mother."
Yeah,
Jesse's ex-wife, and Jesse's like, "Don't say good luck. That's inspiring him to think there's a conflict there."
Well, also, there's 2 occasions in the film where Celine gets calls from the son and doesn't let Jesse take the phone to talk to him. Yeah, which is weird because this is only her her stepson. But anyway, they basically have a long argument in the hotel room about like whether they should move to America, whether they should stay in Paris. She's obviously got this major panic over becoming a stay-at-home mother, like losing her career and all this, and letting him kind of do whatever he wants. And then basically there's accusations of cheating going on, and every nightmare mid-40s couple topic of argument comes up.
Yeah, it's only based around the question
I'm
of
fat and ugly, you cheating on me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah.
Julie Delpy even says, like, if we didn't have the kids, would we still be together?
Yeah, and you're basically watching the promise of romance from the first two movies and all this hope and idealism just being kind of thrown out the window because you're like, every relationship will rot with time. It is a very bleak film, but I don't think is a miserable watch.
No, I think it's
funny. I think that they are charming and whimsical while they're arguing, and they're both so immature in different ways at the insults that they throw at each other that it's incredibly pleasurable to watch them arguing, even when they're both in the wrong, kind of. And there's elements where he's being an asshole and he's being a bit misogynistic, and there's elements where she's being very, very quick to jump to conclusions and being a reactionary. And you kind of end up, I feel like, straight down the middle. It
is like what makes these such a success that I find all of them are pretty balanced screenplays.
Yeah, I think they're balanced. Yeah,
maybe that's
that's
a skewed male perspective on it.
Yeah,
who knows?
I know. We're speaking as men, saying, I don't think this movie suffers from having a male director. I think Julie Delpy being a credited writer on these films is the reason that they're not. And she is an authorial voice. She is a director, writer in her own right. Yeah. And I think that she has a huge influence on the scripts here because
I don't think she'd let it slide if she thought this was
now, whether Julie Delpy's version of feminism is every woman's cup of tea is another matter. There might be women who watch this film and do come out of it thinking it leans towards the male perspective and that she's depicted as hysterical and flippant and jumping to conclusions and paranoid and all this. You might think that that's how this film depicts her. I think it makes him seem like an insincere asshole in many ways. So I think it's quite a good balanced film. But it ends on quite a positive note. It ends with she runs off and goes and sits down somewhere to have a drink.
Yeah.
He shows up about half an hour later and does this, I'm a time traveler.
I've never met you before,
but I'm here to tell you you're going to have the best sex of your life.
Yeah.
And she just kind of resigns to going along with the bit. And then the film ends and you're like, this is not a permanent fix for these problems.
No, it's not at all.
But I do sense that maybe these people are destined for each other in a way where as many times as they go around in circles arguing, they will always end up back together. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the ultimate point at the end of it is like you can't expect perfect love from the first two films all the time.
No,
that won't exist.
There's going to be days like this day, and this is only one day of arguing, and maybe every other day is fine, even if they're burying some issues under the carpet. I do think, importantly, the third film's ending does leave the door open for further films. And my case to you was they should probably try and switch things up for the fourth one if they do it now. They've obviously, the 9-year deadline has passed.
Long past, yeah.
If 9 years has passed and they haven't made a fourth one, the chances of them ever making a fourth one have obviously dipped by about 50% because now they're doing it off format.
Sure, but I think you identified that the gap...
It might be good to skip a decade.
Yeah, because there's less of a difference between how they were in the early 40s as they will be probably in the early 50s.
Going straight to early 60s and making it a thing where the kids are now adults. So the twin daughters are now going to be in their mid-20s.
They also kind of fill two gaps there where you have the young children and the teenage child in one film there. So
you don't need that. Yeah, I think the kids... And also, like, Boyhood has done the thing with the teenagers.
Yeah.
So I think if you skip now to 35, whatever, you bring out before Twilight, whatever it's called, I think you have the daughters now be in their 20s. So you're skipping the boyhood years. You're going on to a slightly older, young adult generation. And you make it a fucking family movie. Now, maybe this is too, like, Ben Stiller bullshit. But, like, I think a film of the parents and their kids having...
Because
conversations together as a quartet would be interesting.
Like, it could be at the point where the kids are the age they are and before
the actresses, like,
but just
the daughters are the age that Ethan and Julie were in the first movie. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think like, obviously there's a little bit of an obvious thing where you cast Maya Hawke as one of the daughters. I think that's a bit boring. I think nobody wants to see that. I think you find two really interesting 25-year-old actresses that nobody has seen before. You cast them as the kids.
You necessarily need two of them.
They
One
could be
just
French.
Rock up.
Yeah, it could be French kids. Like, and you have the four of them or the three of them have like a family drama. I think that like it would be interesting to see this couple add an adult child to their dynamic, and I say this as a adult only child of a couple who have very open and animated discussions and conversations and arguments myself, that I think adding an adult child into your dynamic makes for an interesting new layer. And I think that these two having their philosophical conversations and their disagreements with a 25-year-old who's just done a philosophy degree in university or a English degree being like, well, my opinion as a Gen Z is this, I think would actually be really
I also think there is a pretty major pivot in a relationship when you kind of don't have to take care of your kids anymore, and you've got a lot of free time.
Yes, suddenly a lot of time. It probably does give you an extra layer of independence back to what you were like in your 20s.
Yeah, and it's whether or not they go back to that, or they're like, all right, we don't have the kids now, what else is there?
So I would fuck with a new Before movie. I think
wouldn't we all?
We should do it in 10 years. It'd be great.
We should.
But yeah, I think these movies rule, and they're great, and everyone, I presume, has seen them and loves them too. So there's not really much else to say.
It's really nice to see a depiction of like an hour and a half long argument where kind of everything said is kind of important and relevant, and it all gets cleared up.
Yes.
It's so smooth. It's so sharp.
It's great. So
it's not how arguments happen in real life. They happen over texts, and there are 2-hour gaps between texts.
Yeah, exactly. No. Arguments over texts is one of the worst things to ever happen to relationships. It really is.
Probably.
It's just so much less productive than having conversations in person. Anyway, that's a matter for individuals to decide.
Absolutely.
So we've never discussed Ethan Hawke on the show, which is another big sort of person we've needed to knock off for a while.
We're up to 77 episodes now?
77, 78 episodes, yeah. We did talk about Ethan Hawke's career when we did Reality Bites on Adam and Ben. People want to go back and listen to that. Where are we at on Reality Bites? You have positive feelings about it?
No,
it's shite. He is he's kind of a child star. He breaks out in Explorers, which is like a kids sci-fi movie where he's the main kid, and he's obviously a very winning child actor. And then he is the kind of one of the main teen boys in Peter Weir's Dead Poets Society, a film that I had never seen until a few days ago, which is trash. Terrible film. I'm sorry to all the Dead Poets Society heads out there. That movie is wall-to-wall cliche nonsense. I think I'm unfortunately allergic to Robin Williams in Sincere Mode. I say this as someone who enjoys Bicentennial Man, but I think Robin Williams doing his "Oh Captain, my Captain, live your life" bullshit English teacher thing is like the most insufferable shit I've ever seen, and annoying people are obsessed with that movie. So sorry to Ethan Hawke, but I don't like Dead Poets Society. Then he stars in Dad with Jack Lemmon and Ted Danson, which I think I'm right in saying is a George Bernard Shaw adaptation ? Sorry, no. William Wharton. Apologies. I'm thinking of something else. Dad is 3 generations: the grandfather, the father, and the son. And Jack Lemmon, Ted Danson, and Ethan Hawke. That's a fun boy party. He's transitioning into adult roles kind of all through the early 90s. Reality Bites, he's in Redford's Quiz Show. Then Before Sunrise comes in 1995. So he's not like a major star in 1995, but he's well liked and well recognized. Meets his wife, mother of his child, Uma Thurman, on Andrew Nichols' Gattaca in 1997. He's in the really weird Alfonso Cuarón modernized version of Great Expectations, where he plays the, cool young artist version of Pip from the Dickens novel, and Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert De Niro are in it. He works with Linklater on the Newton Boys and Waking Life. He's in a weird version of Hamlet with cool computer stuff on the poster. So I assume it's modern day. I know nothing about it. Gets his first Oscar nomination, Best Supporting Actor, for Training Day, which I watched a few weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
This movie has a lot going for it, but it didn't really work for me. I'm not into cop, drug dealer, LA movies. Like, it's just Denzel and Hawke driving around all day, getting into confrontations with drug dealers. Now, Cliff Curtis, very good in it. Denzel and Ethan Hawke, Denzel wins Best Actor and Hawke is nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I think there's a very strong case to be made that they should have been swapped, because Ethan Hawke does end up being the protagonist of this film, because Denzel kind of turns bad at a certain point, and then Ethan Hawke becomes our sort of protagonist who's trying to do the right thing, while Denzel is kind of off in the background.
I do always kind of forget who is the
white guy.
The white guy in Training Day. I'm like, is it Colin Farrell?
Yeah, it's funny that it's Ethan Hawke. And then years later,
what's the one? Is there one?
Colin Farrell is in The Recruit with Pacino.
Sorry,
and
I get those confused.
SWAT with Sam Jackson. Both very similar movies. Yes, you're right. It could be Colin Farrell. Ethan Hawke and Colin Farrell are interesting comparisons, actually. They do sort of operate in the same space. But Ethan Hawke and Denzel and director Anton Fuqua all reunited for the Magnificent Seven remake in 2016, which is okay. I mean, Ethan Hawke doesn't have a massive role in it. He's sort of the third of the seven. Chris Pratt's in there as well. It's cool to see Denzel on a horse. I mean, that's my main takeaway from that film. Before Sunset comes in 2004, and he's kind of in like Action Man phase around this time because he's the lead of the Assault on Precinct 13 remake with him and Lawrence Fishburne. And then he's in Lord of War with Nicolas Cage, which isn't an action movie. That's like an arms dealer thriller, which is a pretty good film that they're talking about doing a sequel to. Cage is apparently involved in developing a sequel. I don't know if Andrew Niccol will be involved or if Hawke will be involved, but Hawke has a pretty interesting like repeated collaboration here with people like Andrew Niccol and Fuqua, whatever. He, of course, appears in Sidney Lumet's final film with Brian F. O'Byrne and Philip Seymour Hoffman, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, 2007. Him and Philip Seymour Hoffman as brothers is an interesting one. I'm not sure if I buy, but sure.
Oh, I think that sounds good.
It's a good movie. I just don't know if they are necessarily believable brothers. He's in a movie called Brooklyn's Finest, which has done very poorly on our March Madness bracket before with Richard Gere, Wesley Snipes, and Don Cheadle. Like, I'm looking here. There's a period here from like 2005 to kind of up until The Purge and Boyhood, when he is just not functioning as a movie star. I mean, there is stuff here I've never heard of. Staten Island, a Moby Dick in 2011. Like, Brooklyn's Finest, what are these movies? Daybreakers, a vampire thing. These are not real studio films. He gets in the Jason Blum world with Sinister in 2012, which is a Scott Derrickson horror movie, which I haven't seen. I think there's scary videotapes in the attic or something. And then he works with Derrickson again on with Blum again on The Purge in 2013, which is the same year as Before Midnight. The Purge is fun. I mean, he plays like a rich dad who owns a house with a big gate in front of it. Yeah. Marauders attack on Purge night. It doesn't need to have Ethan Hawke in it, but having a charismatic star is never bad news for a horror film like this. And he continues his relationship with Blumhouse, where he makes The Black Phone a couple of years ago, which is a movie where he wears a scary mask on the poster, and he plays a guy called the Grabber who abducts kids and keeps them in his basement.
He's a funny guy to have this kind of secondary horror career.
It's really weird. It's like his face is just scary enough that stupid horror teen fans will be like, yeah, I fucking like this guy as a horror star. It's weird. It's like, it's the kind of the version of a movie star career that he can operate in where he doesn't have to commit that much of his time or effort. He gets paid loads of money and he gets to be in studio films first build, but like, it's not really diluting his prestige at all.
No, because horror seems to kind of operate separately.
It's on its own thing. Like, on its own thing. He's way better off being in horror than, for example, playing Doctor Strange, which was in the mix. You know, he was in the mix. It was kind of between Joaquin Phoenix, Ewan McGregor, him, and Cumberbatch. Yeah, I don't know if I was going back in time and I had to make a decision there myself, casting one of those four. I don't know. Would I go for Ewan McGregor? Given that he has made nothing interesting in the last 10 years anyway, maybe it would have been just as well to have Ewan McGregor faffing around in Marvel movies rather than that very tiresome Cumberbatch performance. I don't know. But Ethan Hawke got out lucky until years later he would pop up in Marvel as the villain in Moon Knight.
Again,
second week in a row.
That's a horror that operates on a completely different...
Moon Knight's not horror. It's Disney Plus show. He's in a movie with Selena Gomez called Getaway, again, the same year as before. Midnight gets his Oscar nomination for Boyhood in 2014, which is the great supporting actor category that I reference often. Yep. J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, Ethan Hawke in Boyhood, Edward Norton, Birdman, Mark Ruffalo, Foxcatcher, Robert Duvall, The Judge.
Tough slate.
Ruffalo and Foxcatcher, I would cut there, and I would put in somebody else. But like, I think that J.K. Simmons is the right winner there. But I wonder will my opinion on that change over time. The Ethan Hawke performance, it might be a little bit more interesting.
I feel like no one's career was affected more than J.K. Simmons.
Of course, that's such a boost. Like, yeah. But J.K. Simmons in that movie is like iconic, right? Yeah. That's an iconic performance. We quote him constantly. It exists in the zeitgeist in a really specific way.
Yeah, but I guess it kind of exists. It exists in the world, in like the world of jokers and kind of loud,
exactly.
Angry.
And Godfather, Joker,
top
Taxi
10 acting
Driver.
performances on TikTok.
It's kind of just shouting.
It is, but it's...
I wonder, is there a case to be made that Ethan Hawke in Boyhood is like actually doing a lot more complicated work? I think he might be, because he's playing 12-year arc of a divorced loser trying to be a good father to his kids, who ends the movie as a Jesse from Before Midnight with a new wife, new kids. Like, he goes from being a totally different character to, you know, like his performance in Boyhood is so different to the Jesse performance, which I think is really stands to him as an actor. I think that's a great performance. I wonder, the problem with nominating Ethan Hawke in Boyhood for supporting actor. Now, obviously, L.R. Coltrane is the lead of that film. L.R. Coltrane wasn't nominated for that film, which is outrageous. He should have been. But, like, if we're really talking about leads and supportings on a literal level, you could almost argue that both L.R. Coltrane and Ethan Hawke are lead actors of Boyhood, and that the supporting actors in Boyhood are the stepdads and the fucking teacher and the boss in the fast food restaurant and all of those really great guys who pop in 2 or 3 scenes. Because if you put Ethan Hawke, who's in an hour and 40 minutes of the movie, as a supporting actor, it does kind of dilute the actual supporting actors. But anyway, he's in a film called Predestination, which is a shitty sci-fi movie, but Sarah Snook is in that film playing like a woman who is masquerading as a man, I think.
Haven't seen it.
And like, I remember watching it and only realizing halfway through that it was an actress, and it has later emerged that it was Sarah Snook, which is funny. So I watched like half a film thinking that Sarah Snook was a man. Interesting. Good Kill is like a drone operator thing he's in. I haven't seen it. I think it might be Andrew Niccol. I can't remember. Maggie's Plan, the Rebecca Miller movie. My buddy, Rebecca Miller. He plays Chet Baker in a movie called Born to be Blue, which we watched the other night, which was fine. It's fun that Ethan Hawke gets to do these like independent jazz biopics.
He seems to do a lot of work on stuff he just kind of likes.
Yeah, I think he
seems like a guy that reads a lot of books.
He's a writer as well. He's a novelist. Like, he's obviously really into literature. He's into music, and he wants to make films about niche cultural artifacts, regardless of whether there's financing or not. Sure. And I think it's cool that he seems to be willing to kind of like...
His name is the financing.
His name is the financing. He's willing to kind of like travel to a funny place and film a weird film with funny producers, which is cool. I think he seems like, and on those grounds, is an admirable figure. Similarly, he's in the Noah Bushell movie, The Phenom, I don't know, with Giamatti, directed by Noah Bushell, who's a family friend. And then he's in Aisling Walsh, the Irish film, Maudie, with Sally Hawkins, for which he wins the IFTA for Best International Actor.
Oh, yeah.
And this is about...
Is he in possession of that physical award?
No. I don't believe so. But he and Sally Hawkins are in that, and he works with the Irish director, Aisling Walsh, and he is... in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
He sure is.
First Reformed, I feel like he got very close to a Best Actor nomination for that. People love that movie. I'm not quite as hot on it as everybody else. I know that Dave spoke very highly of it on last week's episode. It is a very compelling role for him. He plays a priest having an existential crisis about climate change in sort of rural America, and he meets a woman played by Amanda Seyfried who is married to some asshole, and she comes and kind of hangs out with him, and they develop a connection, and it ends with this kind of infamous scene of him like wrapping barbed wire around his body and basically sacrificing himself, and it's like a real fucking downer of a movie about giving up on the planet. And I think it's becoming probably more prescient to how people feel year upon year since it was released. I'm not really the biggest Paul Schrader fan, but it's definitely interesting and worth visiting, and Ethan Hawke is doing something in it that you don't see from him very often, which is going very, very dark. And not really much else of interest since then, to be honest. There's this movie Tesla. There's an Adam McGowan movie, Zeros and Ones. He's in a TV show called The Good Lord Bird, which is a Western, which is supposedly very good. As I mentioned, The Black Phone. Pops up in The Northman. Has a very weird cameo in Glass Onion where he's the guy who greets them when they get to the island and then he disappears. And he's not in any of the marketing. It's really random that he's in it.
So he introduces everyone to Edward Norton.
Yeah, and then he fucks off. Yeah, it's weird. He is in a movie called Raymond and Ray with Ewan McGregor. That was an Apple original where they play brothers. Was in like a Almodovar, like 45-minute Yves Saint Laurent commercial, basically, called Strange Way of Life with Pedro Pascal. Then he's like kind of forgettable in Leave the World Behind, where Julia Roberts and Mahershala are the performances I remember from that film. And him, and who's the fourth adult in that?
Is there a fourth?
There's another wife, right?
Mahershala's wife.
Oh, yeah. Myhala is the actress's name.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 2 couples, and then Kevin Bacon shows up in sort of the third act.
Yeah.
I did not like that film very much. I think you liked it more than me.
I thought it had a fun vibe.
Was it a waste of Ethan Hawke though?
Yeah,
I think
probably.
It was.
I don't think him and Julia Roberts kind of clicked as a
I don't think
an
so.
interesting couple.
No, I don't think so at all. And I think that he doesn't really register in it because his character is completely tertiary to the two Oscar winners, to Julia and Mahershala. I think that film is stupid, but I respect that it's trying something. And I think that the final 25 seconds is one of the great endings of the century. When the daughter has been waiting the entire movie to watch the last episode of Friends, but the internet broke, so she couldn't watch it on Netflix. This is a Netflix original movie, we should say.
Sorry, the US has been invaded.
Yeah,
is what happened.
She hasn't been
staying
able,
in an Airbnb.
There's been no Netflix, so she can't watch the last episode of Friends. And the movie ends with her discovering DVDs in the basement, and she's able to put on the DVD of Friends. And the movie ends with "I'll Be There for You's opening chords
as a nuke goes off in New York in the distance.
Brilliant ending,
So
and a testament to the power of physical media. A film directed by a man who goes on a lot of movie podcasts all the time. So you know what's going on there. So that's Ethan Hawke's. That's what's going on with Ethan, and he's got Blue Moon coming up. I don't know if he's going to get an Oscar nomination for Blue Moon. I'd be surprised, but everyone likes Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
And now his daughter is a big star. I'm not convinced I like her as an actress yet.
Uma Thurman mightn't like Ethan Hawke.
Uma Thurman might not like Ethan Hawke. I mean, it seems that he left Uma Thurman for the nanny of the kids or whatever. So I would say that he's probably maybe not an amazing husband, but on a purely film level, cool guy who I like. Would watch him in anything.
Yeah.
Has a very, very nice laid back energy that you do not get from many other guys at his level, and would definitely be top 5 most appealing options to be in a fucking historical biopic. If you're telling me we're making a movie about this musician from 50 years ago, Ethan Hawke is in it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot. Yeah. Julie Delpy. Don't have a whole lot to say about Julie Delpy because most of her films are French, and I hate to say I haven't seen a lot of them, but she gets discovered by none other than Jean-Luc Godard, and he puts her in his film Detective when she's about 14. She works with him again on his version of King Lear. She's in the great Léos Carax movie Mauvais Sang with Danny Levant, who almost ran over me on his scooter once. Léos Carax, obviously another, I'm not going to say family friend, but a person my family has a relationship with, and he puts her in that, and she's working with all these great French filmmakers early in her career, and then she's in the Three Colors trilogy, and she's basically the lead of Three Colors White, and then right after that she gets cast in Before Sunrise. So obviously she's well known in France at this point and is well liked, and then she kind of goes back and forth between America and France. She's randomly in But I'm a Cheerleader and a couple of these American cult films. Pops up in Jarmusch's Broken Flowers opposite Bill Murray, and then she directs and writes her own mini Before trilogy, the two days movies. So there's 2 days in Paris and 2 days in New York.
Okay.
You'd like these. They're good. They're less like the Before movies and more like Woody Allen movies from a female perspective.
Sure.
I really like them. I think they're delightful. So the first movie is 2 Days in Paris, and it's her, and the male lead is Adam Goldberg, who is not an actor you're probably that familiar with. You might recognize him. He's in Fargo and a few other things, but basically the movie's about a couple kind of walking around Paris for a day or two. It is much more purely comedic, kind of slapsticky, kind of silly comedy.
It's less existential.
Yeah, way more less. It's much more like Woody Allen tone. But I think the second one's better. The second one is her and Chris Rock. And this is Chris Rock's best performance ever. And he plays her husband, Mingus.
Yes.
And her real father, maybe both her parents, but definitely her real father plays her dad in it and is great. And it's them in New York, and Mingus is really neurotic, and they're dealing with her parents. And it's just a good, silly family comedy that kind of exists in the spectrum of Woody Allen to Meet the Fockers, And I think these movies are really good. And I think she's a good director and a good writer. And she later writes and creates, I think, a Netflix series in France called On the Verge. Women on the Verge would be too Almodovar. I think it's called On the Verge, and it came out in 2021. I haven't seen it. But otherwise, most of her work is in France. She doesn't really work all that much in terms of English language projects of hers that I have seen. She pops up in Avengers: Age of Ultron as Black Widow's ballet teacher in flashbacks called Madame B. Now, I wonder, do they try and get her back for the Black Widow movie? Because there is a role for her narratively in that. I don't know if Julie Delpy carries enough weight with Marvel fans as a recognizable face that it's worth the fee you'd have to pay her to do it. Like, surely you're better off just casting any old French actress, because people who go to see Avengers movies are not like, oh my god, it's Julie Delpy, like, but they're like, hey, we got Academy Award nominee Julie
How
Delpy.
much of a box office boost do they get in France from casting Julie Delpy, and does that outweigh her fee?
Imagine
you make €3 million more in France because she's in it, and you pay her
you might make $1 million more. I mean, it's like when they release movies in China and they put the Chinese actor on the poster, even though they're in one scene. The French marketing campaign for Avengers: Age of Ultron, Julie Delpy's face on the poster, like. But she is in one segment of a Todd Solondz kind of anthology film that I watched the other day called Wiener Dog, about a wiener dog being passed from household to household, and she plays a mother of a son, and the wiener dog has to be put down, and she's explaining to her son why the wiener dog needs to be put down, and it's funny. And then the wiener dog is about to be put down by the vet, played by Greta Gerwig, but she decides to steal the wiener dog and take it away on a holiday with Kieran Culkin for the weekend. Wiener Dog's fun. I would recommend it. It's good fun. And Danny DeVito's in it, and Ellen Burstyn. It's good fun. She's in a weird movie called The Bachelors with J.K. Simmons that looks like absolute garbage, which I'd be interested in seeing.
Is she any input into the making of that?
I don't think so. And then there's like a weird like erotic thriller that I'd like to watch that came out about 3 years ago called The Lesson, where she plays the tutor of a young ambitious writer played by Ireland's own Daryl McCormack.
Oh, Jesus.
And Richard E. Grant is also in this movie, and it's like a sexy, literary, older woman, younger man thriller, and like it's her and Daryl McCormack. I'd like to see that. I think that has potential to be kind of fun. And that's like the last English language film she was in. So I don't know. Julie Delpy's not really like a movie star in English language world. I guess in France she is, and she's somebody who can get a Netflix series made. I think that like
I wonder what French people's opinion of her is.
French people love French actors who make it in America.
Do they? Okay.
I mean, I think that the French film industry really like will support you once you become a name internationally. And I think if you get an Oscar nomination for writing a screenplay in America, you're getting your French films made for good, because the French film industry has so much money. They will make anything. Oh, yeah. So like if you're Julie Delpy and you're like, I want to make a comedy about a stupid fucking
Wiener
family.
Dog.
Yeah, Wiener Dog. Or, well, that's an American film. But if you're like, I want to make a fucking, Christmas comedy about a family arguing, the French government will be like, oh, please, here's a budget, cast everyone, and Julie Delpy is like, set for life. So I hope Julie Delpy works with Richard Linklater in a non-Celine capacity. I think it's funny that she never has.
Apart from the animated.
That's playing Celine.
Like, directly.
Oh, the Jesse and Celine are the characters in that
I
film.
thought it was just like a... No. They're similar...
No, that is a Jesse and Celine sequence.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
I would like her to play another character in a Richard Linklater movie. I think it'd be fun if she shows up in another Linklater movie with a different bunch of actors. I think she could be really well utilized. Is she an amazing actress in her own right? I'm not entirely sure. I think in these films, she's basically playing herself with... Like, it is a great performance, but I think she's kind of playing herself.
I don't think that's an excuse to knock it.
No, it's not. But I wouldn't like.
There's so many layers
of the 7 and 8 films I've seen her in. My opinion of her would be that maybe she is better as a comedy actress than I'm not sure a very serious dramatic actress. But I don't know. Those things are of equal value.
It's incredible. We identified how incredible or how necessary it is for Celine to be French in these films to make it work.
Oh, exactly. Because it allows a margin of error for misunderstanding and misinterpretation of things, and
everything is always said in a slightly incorrect way to the other person.
She kind of reverse engineers a lot of the points she makes because her language is a little bit backwards, her English is a little bit broken, and it just makes for a more engaging. As a person,
you're forced to listen a little more.
These movies are ultimately kind of just podcasts, and you're listening to two people having a conversation where they're jumping from topic to topic, and it makes you tune in exactly a little bit more closely to what they're saying when her English is a little bit wrong. So it's great. So that's the Julie Delpy filmography. Love her. Love a bit of Julie.
We do.
Let's move on to the Letterboxd Top 4 game.
Okay.
This is friend of the show, Evine Bryant. Top 4 on Letterboxd.
Shout out.
Before Sunrise is in her top 4. Now,
Sunrise.
We did Gemma's top 4 recently. She also has Before Sunrise in her top 4, but we did that on the Harry Met Sally episode. Sunrise.
She's a Sunrise person.
Both of them do.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Okay. I disagree respectfully. Evine has Before Sunrise in her top 4. So, number 3 on the list. Number 1 on her top 4. is a film from the last couple of years. Very well regarded independent film. Got a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars. Okay. Although I would argue that the lead of this film and the real standout performance is a young person.
This is After Sun.
This is the film After Sun, directed by Charlotte Wells, starring Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio. Number 2 on this list is from the same year as After Sun. It is
22.
21, 22. It is a fabulous film. The filmmaker and star have a new film coming out this year, which looks great, which I'm really excited for.
Von Trier is this worst person in the world?
Not Von Trier.
Sorry, not
just
Von
Trier. This is the worst person in the world.
Von Trier.
Lars von Trier is worst person in the world.
Yeah, apologies.
Where everybody
Joachim Trier
has sex in the forest.
Yeah.
Number 3 on the list is Before Sunrise, and then her 4th favorite film is another banger. Definitely has a place on my 25 for 25 coming up soon.
Tar?
No, haven't done this one yet.
Oh.
This is You Love This, great film. One of the greats.
From what period are we talking about?
Or very early start of the 21st century, very early 2000s.
Oh, Eternal Sunshine.
No. As I've said multiple times, haven't done it yet on the 25 or 25. You haven't been keeping track. That's crazy.
I'm not keeping track.
That's crazy. This is you're a big fan of this. Gave you nightmares.
Flight Plan. No.
5-star film. Gave you nightmares. The director is a very old man who is still alive and working, but he's like in his 80s.
Gave me nightmares.
This movie gave you nightmares. This movie's really spooky and weird and freaky.
Spirited Away?
Spirited Away.
Oh, yes.
Evine's got After Sun, Worst Person in the World, Before Sunrise, and Spirited Away.
Good selection.
You can follow her. Username is YAOIBHIN. Evine. All right, so box office wise, we got 3 movies here. So when does Before Sunrise come out?
January 1995.
Oh, I bet there were some bangers in January 1995. All right, give me the top 3 from this weekend.
We've got Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins.
Legends of the Fall.
Yes.
No, you're forgetting. I just read Edward Zwick's book.
Oh,
he directed that.
That's
so
whose book that
I'm
is.
Zwick pilled.
Yeah.
Never seen it. Sounds boring, but I did like the book. So shout out to Eddie Zwick.
Eddie. Okay, we got. This is the 3rd film in a franchise.
Interesting. Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Okay, this seems to have a different name on Letterboxd as it does on the numbers.
So it's not Die Hard with a Vengeance.
No.
1995. Is it action?
Yes.
Men with guns.
A lot of 1 and 2 stars here. Stars Christopher Lambert.
Oh, Highlander 3.
Highlander 3.
Have you heard they're making a new Highlander remake?
Why?
With Henry Cavill, Russell Crowe, and Marissa Abela from Industry.
Sure.
Is
this a Scottish thing?
Scottish thing.
Oh, it is a Scottish thing.
He's a guy who lives up in the hills.
Okay, so Letterboxd calls this Highlander 3, The Sorcerer. Yeah. Whereas the numbers, it's Highlander, The Final Dimension.
So that's probably the American versus UK or something.
Yeah, I guess so.
I wonder if Gerard Butler is going to murder Henry Cavill in his sleep that he beat him out for the role in Highlander. Like, Jerry Butler was waiting 20 years to be cast in a Highlander reboot.
Yeah.
He is the Scottish guy, and then they gave it to Cavill. That's Scottish face. Like,
I feel like you can't have Gerard Butler and Russell Crowe in a film together.
No, you're right. That's too much fucking
You're not allowed.
lunatic energy. Like, yeah. All right, number 3.
3rd film, big comedy hit. This is in its
Home Alone.
7th week, and it's still 3rd.
Home Alone.
No.
But is it Christmassy?
No.
It's a comedy from like December of 94.
94, yeah. Earlier, November even. Oh, sorry, no, December. Yeah, first week of December.
94. I need a clue.
2 big stars. It's a boy party.
Do you have a tagline? We never do tagline.
There, it got a sequel.
2
big stars. Potentially.
2 men.
Yep. This is kind of one of the standout.
Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber.
Very good.
Okay, let's move on to
Before Sunset, 2004.
Before Sunset.
So what date is this?
This is July 2nd, 2004.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm good with this. All right.
Okay. Top film.
Spider-Man 2?
Yep.
Yeah, one of the greats, yeah.
Next film. Kind of a documentary.
Fahrenheit 9/11?
Fahrenheit 9/11.
Yeah.
And 3rd,
is it Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban?
No, it is a comedy film.
Interesting.
With some prosthetics / face paint involved.
White Chicks. Yeah, I'm never watching that.
Why not? Just
scares me.
Yeah.
I'm actually really scared of the
Oh, the
how
faces.
they look like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're scary.
Then we got Dodgeball, True Underdog Story, The Terminal, The Notebook, Prisoner of Azkaban, Shrek 2, Garfield movie, Two Others.
Weird. The Terminal was a summer release. The Terminal has big Christmas vibes to
It
me.
does. Anthony
That's
Tom
a really
Hanks
Christmassy film. Yeah. Weird. All right. I guess the Polar Express came out that same year, so they couldn't have done two at Christmas. All right.
And
we're skipping to 2013. So this is when, 2013?
24th of May.
2013. Oh, interesting. So The Purge is out right around this time. The Purge is like 2 weeks later. It's like 2 weeks later. Yeah.
It must be, yeah.
That's interesting.
Now, we got a lot of franchise slop, a lot of sequels up here, a lot of IP.
I'm going to be straight with you. Let's do the full top 10 here.
Fine.
I love summer of 2013. This is a crazy time. Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Go ahead.
What's number one? So this is the end of May 2013.
Yep.
Star Trek Into Darkness is number one.
No, it's not number one.
Not number one.
That is in its second week currently. It was number one the previous week.
Fuck,
We
okay.
got two
Fast and Furious 6.
big money makers.
Fast and Furious 6?
Fast and Furious 6 is number one.
Despicable Me
Nope.
2. No. Fuck.
It's a 3.
Hangover Part 3.
Hangover Part 3.
Good film.
Yep.
Okay. So we got Fast and Furious 6, Hangover Part 3, right?
Yep.
Third place is Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes.
Fourth place, The Great Gatsby.
Nope. Next is, I believe, children's animated.
Epic.
Epic. Oh, yes. The
Notable for having Snow Patrol, The Lightning Strike in its trailer.
It does.
A great trailer. You know who stars in Epic?
I do.
Colin Farrell.
It is Colin Farrell.
And Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
Epic's not very good, but it's a cool premise. It's all set in a tree.
Yep.
And it features Snow Patrol in the trailer.
Next up, another 3.
So yeah, there were a lot of 3s this year. Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, yep.
Great. Shane Black talked about it on our Nice Guys episode.
Yeah. Then we're getting into Gatsby.
Yeah.
Then we've got...
I was so fucking locked into movies this summer. I was doing a box office podcast every week. Like, I know everything that was going on. Then Man of Steel. No, that's June. That's middle of June.
Nope.
Okay.
We've got a film here that stars someone who was probably coming into their prime years or at their peak.
Ooh, Channing Tatum.
No, this guy had maybe a 4 or 5 year stretch where he was kind of one of the big names in Hollywood, but then it's kind of died down a little bit recently.
Who would that be? I
don't think you've seen this.
I don't think you've seen it. Is it a comedy?
No,
It's an action
like
film.
it's kind of a westerny,
Westerny thing.
running from his past, hiding from the law, only one way out. Sorry, not westerny, but like man in rural America.
What?
Jeff Nichols directed.
Oh, Mud.
Mud.
I've seen Mud. I'm not a Jeff Nichols fan.
No.
Mud is interesting. Mud has a good supporting cast: Reese Witherspoon and Sam Shepard, and yeah.
Ty Sheridan.
Yeah. I just don't like.
McKinnon.
I don't like
Sarah
Jeff
Paulson.
Nichols. Yeah.
Mike Shannon's in there.
Yeah, he's always in. Yeah,
always
it's a
in
Jeff
these
Nichols
things.
film. It's got Michael
Yeah.
Shannon. Boring.
Okay. Next one has also got a number in it.
Right. A number. Is it for children?
No.
Is it a comedy?
No.
Is it a horror?
This is kind of just like... There's like 6 films that are kind of interchangeable here. Where it's like...
Interesting.
In a game divided by color, he made us see greatness.
What? In a game divided by color?
Yeah.
This is a sequel.
No.
Oh, but it has a number in the title.
The title
This
is-
movie is 42.
42, yeah.
About Jackie Robinson with Chadwick Boseman. Yeah. And Harrison Ford.
These are the films that perpetually pop up on my YouTube shorts.
Of course.
There's
Race.
Race. There's another one where Auntie Mackie plays a landlord and Colomini is in it.
The Banker.
The banker. Yeah, like they're all kind
He
of
plays a landlord.
they're all kind of green booky.
Tell me,
like-
Colmini isn't the landlord.
Sorry, Auntie Mackie is trying to purchase the building from Colomini.
Yes, I had to watch some clips from that when I was making the Colmini Lifetime Tribute at work.
Yeah. Next up,
Yeah.
another animated film of the summer.
Oh man. I don't know. I need
It's
to.
98 minutes long.
That's not helpful.
Okay, we'll see.
Monsters University.
You've rated this film, but you've not reviewed it.
Oh. So it's something I watched at the time that I never went back to.
Incredibly
Turbo?
stacked top.
Not Turbo.
No.
Not Monsters University.
No.
2013.
Like first 4 name or top 2 names here, or top 3 names are all just huge.
Was this something that spawned sequels? Was it
I
a
think
one
there was
song?
a second one. Yeah,
I think there was a second one. 2013. Give me one of the 4 names.
Catherine Keener,
Well, that's not helpful at all.
Clark Duke. No, he's not one of the 4.
No, I have no idea.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, but it's not Turbo.
No,
Animated Ryan Reynolds.
the two leads haven't been mentioned yet. So Catherine Keener and Ryan Reynolds are like 3 and 4.
Weird. Ryan Reynolds isn't the lead.
No,
Because he's the lead of Turbo the same summer. You see.
Ryan Reynolds plays Guy.
What the fuck is this? Oh, I have no idea
Do you want the other two names?
Yeah.
Emma Stone, Nicolas Cage.
Oh, The Croods. They made The Croods 2 10 years later.
Yeah.
And you know, I have interviewed the director of The Croods 2, Joel Crawford. Very nice man. Yeah, The Croods is like so nothing.
Yeah.
It's like the Flintstones without the humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, weird Ryan Reynolds is like a supporting role in The Croods. Don't know what's going on there.
And to round out the top 10, we have got a real man of the moment here.
Okay.
Just had a film out this week
in our time right now.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
Close.
World War Z. No. World War Z is about to come out. Close.
Okay.
Javier
it's not
Bardem.
one of the actors. It's the director.
Oh, Kaczynski movie. So it's obviously Oblivion.
It is Oblivion.
Oblivion came out in like April, as far as I was concerned. That's interesting. It's hanging around.
Oblivion is number 10 and is in its 6th week.
Sure. So it came out sort of early May. All right.
No, April, 24th of May.
Yeah, I was thinking that's an April movie.
Yeah.
That is a boring movie.
That's hanging on, still making.
Yeah, summer of 2013 is really weird. I mean, you get a lot of weird stuff. Like, still to come, you've got Gatsby and you've got all the July like kind of trash like R.I.P.D. and that was a weird summer. Kick-Ass 2. Like there was a real kind of dearth of like serious blockbusters in kind of July, August of 2013. Man of Steel, obviously. The Wolverine came out the end of July, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, finally a real movie, 5 stars. Anyway.
Where's your Joseph Kosinski rankings at?
So number 1 is definitely Only the Brave, which is great.
Yep.
Number 2 is probably Tron Legacy, because at least it's kind of got stuff going on. Then Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
And then I would really struggle to rank Spiderhead, F1, and Oblivion are all equally uninteresting to me.
Sure.
I would probably go F1, Spiderhead, Oblivion. Yeah. Spiderhead's quite poor. I might put that last. Mm-hmm. He's not a director I find interesting. I think Only the Brave is good, but I don't think that film is like... Anyone could have directed Only the Brave. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sold on Kosinski. I think people talking about him like he's a great action director need to cop on a little bit. I think he's not. I think he's no Chris McQuarrie. Like
no.
All right.
Yeah, evidently none of the 3 films we discussed ended up in the box office because they're small budget films,
all released by different distributors, which is interesting. But now available in one beautiful Criterion box set that is €80 to buy. But someday I will own that box set. Thank you all for tuning in to our before episode. I hope you feel we did justice to these marvelous films, some of the best we will ever discuss, possibly. And to Ethan and Julie, thank you so much for listening. You can find new episodes of the show at boypartypod.com. I'm releasing 25 for 25 bonus episodes most weeks. You can follow the show Boy Party Pod on Blue Sky and on Instagram. We'll be back next week with more party. Get home safe. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're gonna miss that flight.